Welcome to the Legal Talk series. My name is Lindsay O'Connor and I'm the Head of Core Product at Lexus Nexus Pacific. Today I'm talking to our Managing Director, Greg Dickason, about the role which technology plays in shaping our customers' law firms' futures.
Thank you, Lindsay. Great to be here.
Great. So, look, Greg, I'd really like to start off today by asking you about the why. Why do you think it's important for law firms to look at the different ways in which they can leverage technology and really incorporate that into their practice?
Multiple reasons, but I think the why is absolutely the right place to start, because if you start with why, then you've got the context for what you're doing, and then you can work on the how you're actually going to do it. So why should law firms be interested in technology and understanding what it can do and how it can shape and assist their practice? Multiple reasons. I think fundamentally, technology is changing the way the world works. And what I mean by that is that in the past, processes and that were done by humans and are slightly assisted by technology. Now they're going to be done by technology and humans are going to assist the technology. And you see that when you talk to the global digital giants. Talk to the Google. I interviewed somebody for a role from Google, and I asked them about how they use technology to make their processes better, and he didn't even understand the question I was asking him, because in Google, their interactions and the way they do things, the entire business is run by technology, and people are monitoring the technology and doing things on top of it, but they are not part of the process. So I think the big change that's going to happen is that law firms, the processes of the law firm end to end are going to be run by technology, and people are going to be monitoring how efficient is it? What kind of turnaround times am I getting? Am I measuring all the bits I need to? Can I experiment on the process? And so fundamentally, it's going to change the culture and the type of roles you need to employ. And I mean the support roles. There's no way that we're going to see the loss of lawyers and the fundamental difference that lawyers make from an advice perspective, from a value add perspective. But what we're going to see is that the entire infrastructure of the firm is going to be driven by technology now. Technology is actually going to give you that end-to-end, and people are going to be essentially monitoring the technology and running it, making sure the technology is as efficient as possible. And I think that's the fundamental change. And it then opens up the whole digitization and data and all sorts of other things that a lot of the cutting-edge firms are doing already, but increasingly we're seeing that across so many other firms and firms, not legal firms, but companies in our world, from supply chain to even the way things like Woolworths and Coles are now running their businesses.
So you talked there about integration, and I think that end-to-end integration is a really important point, so that technology isn't something that a firm dips in and out of, but it's actually something that's just a standard part of their day, inherent throughout all of their processes. Now, as we know, law firms are obviously going to be focused on what the actual tangible benefits to them of adopting new technologies are, what differences it's going to make to their day-to-day work, but also their overall business. Could you talk us through some examples of how you've seen technology benefit the legal industry or possibly even other industries?
Yeah, completely. So initially, for example, think about matter intake. So you've got a matter coming in. How does that map through to the entire process of matter management? And in a lot of cases, I know this is one of the holy grails, it doesn't. You get that intake and that whole marketing activity that you're doing, or the customer relationship management that you're doing, managing your client, and all the information that you have on that doesn't necessarily translate into your matter. The context of what you need from the client and external context, what's happening in the world around you, the horizon scanning, if you like, of new legislation that's coming and all the changes, that doesn't come into the matter either. So you're living in this world where you've got siloed pieces of information, and you're asking a highly skilled, you're asking a lawyer who's to be highly efficient, but also to do that value add, but they've got to jump around between the silos to find the information. So what I've seen is where you start to get that integration flowing, that's where you start to get a massive amount of value. When you can tell the lawyer at their point of need, here's a new piece of legislation that's come in that actually is influencing this matter or has influenced the customer in the past, that you need to then jump on. And we've done that in our tech, for example, inside Create. If you're drafting a document, we can highlight that kind of stuff. But I've seen it in lots of other places in firms as well, even with no code solutions, for example, where you're starting to pull things together so that the context and all the information that's needed for the lawyer at that point when they're working is there. And that, I think, makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, it's really good to hear some great tangible examples of how technology is already making a difference to law firms. I think a really interesting dimension here as well is looking ahead to the future and what's kind of further down the road and what that law firm of tomorrow looks like. Are there any ways in which you think technology is actually going to help shape that law firm of tomorrow and what that kind of looks like?
Yeah, completely. I think the law firm of tomorrow is almost like, think of it almost like an animal that has there's so much senses about what's going on in the market. So it's not statically waiting and reacting to client requests. It's dynamically understanding what's happening in the market and then making sure that the clients are kept up to date. Any proactive work that's needed for them, for example, contracts they may have that are now out of date, or potential legal risks that are emerging, or an M&A thing that's happening over here that could influence their industry. The law firm themselves is actually part of that, because you've got very clever people, you've got very clever lawyers who understand this client's businesses in a really deep way. If you enable them through technology, through data being available to them, through insights being delivered, they can then become far more proactive in how they manage the client. And I see that as being the law firm of the future, as being far more about proactively helping their clients out there. As a result, obviously getting more value from those clients, getting more work, but the client themselves seeing an enormous amount of value. I mean, how great would it be? And I just think of it now as a managing director of a firm. If some of my external counsel came to me and said, "Hey, Greg, this matter we worked on 2 years ago, put to rest. Now there's extra risk that's come up, or there's new opportunities that's arrived because this is happening in the market. Let's use those for your advantage or to minimize your risk." And they can proactively do that to us, because we all sit on enormous amount of contracts, enormous amount of relationships, and as a senior leader of a business, it's such a hard line to tread. What opportunities should I be jumping on? What threats should I be considering? What risks are emerging? And I think the law firm of the future is going to be technology enabled, data and content enabled, to the point that they can actually proactively help me.
I love that idea of technology helping law firms to move from that very reactive space to being really proactive about how they do things. And I know we've seen other industries start to kind of encroach on that sort of general business advice, trusted business advisor kind of role. And I think it's really important that we can see how law firms can actually take that back and use, their position of expertise to be really proactively giving this advice to their customers.
And if you think about the way the law firm, when they are involved with the customer, they're right at the client. They're really right at the edge of understanding the client's business. Other firms, consulting firms, for example, they have to rely on a consulting gig to get that level of understanding of the client. A lot of law firms already have that special relationship. So they are ideally placed to use this, this new technology, this new ways of working for their advantage.
Absolutely. They're just leveraging an existing trusted relationship, which makes it so much easier for them to move into that space. So, look, I think it's really clear from our discussion so far what some of the benefits for law firms are, both immediately in terms of efficiency gains, but also looking ahead to maintain that really competitive edge. Technology can be a great enabler. However, we know some firms, when they're thinking about this journey, are obviously going to look at the potential challenges that this might pose for them. What do you think some of those challenges that law firms might face along the way
I
might
think
be?
that the biggest single thing is a cultural shift to be thinking of you as a living, breathing sort of organism, where you actually you're bringing in data, you're bringing in understanding of the market, and then you have a digital ecosystem which is running your business, which is giving you alerts. So it's changing the way you think about how you operate as a business. But that also means culturally the kinds of people you have in your business who support you, and it's a real challenge, I think, for lawyers to, one, keep being good at what they are, but also being aware of the changes that technology can enable them to do and how they can actually change the way they do business. And I think that's the real thing. It's a cultural shift from being focused on your time, focused on a particular matter, to being, I'm actually a risk manager, I'm an opportunity manager for my clients, and I'm using this whole ecosystem around me to get there. And I'm going to get long-term value as a result. I think that's a massive mind shift, and I think that's going to be the real challenge.
Yeah,
And
it
really
goes
good
back to your
partners in
original
firms
point
get
of
that.
integration,
Yeah,
right? You've
yeah,
got to integrate it end to end, and then you kind of bring everybody on that sort of journey with you. So
yeah.
important. So look, while we've been talking about the journey some of our customers have embarked on, we at Lexus Nexus have also been on our own journey in recent years. We've obviously been through this transition from a publisher, but becoming more of a technology partner that can actually work with our customers to help them adopt these various new technologies. Now, of course, you'll already be across some of the developments we've been working on internally, some of which we're in the process of bringing
Which you've
out to
been
the market
brilliant
now.
at leading.
It's been a very exciting year, I think it's fair to say, for us. But I'd really love to hear from you, Greg. Is there anything that you know about that you think is particularly exciting for our market?
So a couple of things. Probably the first one to highlight is the API. So that's just a simple way of us saying that we understand that if you want to be this digital business, you want to get our content and our insights, because we've got great insights around our content, at the point of need. So we're doing that inside our Lexus Create product, which is great, but also through the API, we're allowing it to come to your workflows, to anything you've built internally, so that you can bring into the context of what's happening in the market from our perspective, whether it's news or dossier or legal research, into your workflow. And that's exciting for me, because that is that whole integration message where we're going to be a partner with you in playing in that space. And the other thing is, I know AI is hyped in the market, but when you look at artificial intelligence from the perspective of actually understanding the legal issues and the legal facts in a particular matter, and being able to pull those together and then find others in your information or in Lexus Nexus's information, and just make your research journey so much more efficient, but give you insights that you otherwise wouldn't see and give you that edge over the counterparty. That for me is really exciting. And we've got some great AI technologies that are now coming into products, which, to our earlier conversation before this kicked off, the important thing is that AI isn't in your face. It makes you more efficient. It makes you more effective as a lawyer. And that's where I think we're getting to. Things like our clause intelligence product, for example, where we're highlighting clauses that should or shouldn't be in a document. And I think that is really exciting, that we're actually at the point now where AI is actually going to be an assistant or a help.
Exactly. I think it's about finding the role for AI, right? That it fits into that digital toolbox we're providing lawyers with. It's never going to replace their judgment, but what we're trying to give them is some additional tools to help them to make those decisions.
Exactly.
So, Greg, it's been fantastic talking to you today, as always. I've loved hearing your thoughts on how technology is helping our customers and ultimately helping change the way their businesses work. Thank you all for tuning in today, and we really hope you'll join us again soon for more episodes in our Legal Talk series.